afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to be here. Today we're talking about the Canada Cycle and Motor Agency and putting Queenslanders on the road, which is what they did. So the importance of the motor industry in Queensland history is hard to question. Before 1900, there were no automobiles in Queensland, but car ownership and motorised transport was adopted rapidly in the decades before World War II and achieved widespread popularity afterwards. New types of employment, new ways of performing work, and new social activities were created by motorised transport, and new words entered the lexicon. Next slide, please. The motor industry in Queensland in the early 20th century was an exciting, innovative and growing industry. One company leading the way was the Canada Cycle and Motor Agency, usually called the CCM. Established in 1905 by Alexander Vaughan Dodwell, with company directors the Honourable Thomas Murray Hall, NLC, and James Johnston, the CCM quickly expanded from primarily selling bicycles and sporting equipment into motor vehicles and motorboats, marine and stationary engines, and later into lighting, systems and radios. With branches and agencies throughout Queensland and in Lismore, and with approximately 200 employees by 1914, the CCM was a major Queensland company during the first 3 decades of the 20th century. Next slide. Dodwell, as the managing director, was an important figure in the Queensland motor industry for over 20 years. As a long-term resident of New Farm, his company history may be of interest to you. Many of you will know about Dodwell's residence Linden, which is a lovely picture here, in New Farm due to your organisation's publications, so I'll summarise his links to the area. Dodwell grew up in Yeronga and resided there until 1905. His house was Shottersbrook at 27 Dublin Street, Yeronga, a Federation-era bungalow that's in the Brisbane City Council Heritage Register. By March 1906, at the time of his first son Mervyn's birth, he and his wife Elsie lived in a house called Linden in Langshaw Street. They were resident in another Linden at 197 Moray Street, the one shown here, a timber one-storey building when their second son Leslie was born in March 1908. Next slide. In 1916, they purchased the site for their third and most well-known Linden at 119 Moray Street. In 1918, architect Roy Chips designed this new Linden, a substantial interwall Californian bungalow, which was on site by 1921. Can you just click, please? Whoever's doing the slides. So that's Linden, and just click again. So 4 residential blocks near the Brisbane River were subdivided from the site and offered for sale in 1929. And by the end of this talk, you will know the probable reason for this. Dodwell's son Mervyn and his family lived in a Tudor revival-style house, Blondevin, this one here, nearby Maxwell Street from 1934. That was later turned into apartments. Linden was demolished about 1980. So, next slide please. So who was Dodwell and what do we know about the company he established? He was a pioneer of Queensland's motor industry, importing cars into Queensland from 1906. Born in 1872, he won a scholarship to the Brisbane Grammar School, became involved in cycling, rugby union and sailing, and achieved success in both cycling and rugby. He became manager of the Brisbane branch of the Massey Harris Company and later opened a cycle manufacturing business in Queensland for the well-known firm. The CCM evolved from the Canada Cycle and Motor Company, which had been established in Canada in 1899 by merging 5 bicycle companies, including Massey Harris. It opened branches in Australia, New Zealand and Britain at about 1900. In Queensland, it traded from Queen Street, Brisbane, opposite the GPO. The Massey Harris cycles it sold were well regarded and purchased by many Queenslanders. In 1900, the company imported a motor tricycle, possibly the first motor vehicle into the state. By 1905, the Canada Cycle and Motor Company had sold its Australian branches. The Queensland branch was taken over by Dodwell. With Johnston and Hall, he formed the company with capital of £12,000. The business commenced with 25 employees. Next slide, please. The company history can be divided into 3 phases. its establishment period up until the start of World War I, during the war, and in the post-World War I period. Okay, next slide. Soon after Dodwell took over the CCM, he began securing the Queensland agencies for a number of motor vehicle makes. Within a few months, the CCM held agencies for the famous Dirac motorcar, the Didion and the Griffin motorbicycle, all French makes, as well as the Russell motorcar produced by the Canada Cycle and Motor Company in Canada. They had a Toronto factory. Other agencies followed, such as the British Clement Talbot and Humber, Fiat and Renault. Okay, next slide. Explaining the advantages of motor vehicles to businesses, communities, services and individuals became an important part of the CCM's marketing strategy. In June 1906, Dodwell travelled throughout North Queensland, visiting the Killigo copper fields, the golf courts, and as far north as Thursday Island, assessing business opportunities. At the yearly meeting of the Hatton Vale Farmers Association in 1907, Dodwell provided information about the practicality of motor vehicles for green cartage. And it also seems so simple now, doesn't it? Similar trips and information sessions occurred periodically thereafter. By June 1906, the company had secured premises to enable expansion of its business to provide a garage for car repairs and accommodation. These were on the corner of Crick and Adelaide Street, opposite the fashionable Gresham Hotel. The property was fitted with electric light, accommodation for a dozen large cars, and all the appliances for their overhaul and repair. In mid-1907, the company purchased a large property, including the motor garage premises it already occupied. Its position within about 200 metres of the GPO was regarded as central, and here the CCM established its car showroom, which you can see here. Next one. The CCM also established branches in Toowoomba, Charters Towers and Rockhampton, and enlisted agents in towns and districts throughout Queensland to sell its vehicles to the growing number of people embracing motorisation. As well as its showrooms in Brisbane and throughout the state, the CCM sought other display opportunities. Beginning in 1906, the company hired a stand at the Brisbane exhibition, and at the 1907 one, the CCM and the Queensland Motor Importing Company were the largest exhibitors, showing Russell, Humber and Talbot cars. A motorboat displayed by the CCM caused much admiration. The company also exhibited its buildings and motors at regional shows. Another form of advertising used was performing and promoting feats of endurance, power and speed by vehicles it sold. And many newspaper articles from the era about these achievements sound like CCM media releases. One example was the feat in 1908 by manager William Joss, who lived at Woolston House, of driving a pony Dirac up Townsville's precipitous Castle Hill, which then had no road or track to the top. Advertising in motor magazines such as the Australian Motorist from 1906 and the Steering Wheel from 1914-15, as well as in newspapers, was a regular means of reaching potential customers. Competitions were also used. In 1908, the CCM gave away a Dirac car to a lucky winner who had purchased one of its bicycles. Starting in 1912, the CCM began promoting its products through screening promotional material, such as a film showing car manufacture in the American Studebaker Corporation's automobile factory. Queensland's socio-economic elite took to the road for work and pleasure in this period. Buyers needed to afford the £350 plus price tag for a car. Doctors were early converts to automobile transport, such as Queensland's first female doctor, Lillian Cooper, and Dr. Eleanor Greenham. Walter Pike, a prominent local businessman and co-founder of Pike Brothers Fashion Store for Gentlemen in Queen Street, and Brisbane dentist Thomas J. Coupland took delivery of Russell cars in 1906 and 1907. Country sales were also forthcoming. James Clark, the well-known Coil Fisher, purchased a Dirac in late 1906, while pastoral property managers and owners and Charters Towers mine owners also purchased cars. The CCM's early range of motorcycles included the British Triumph and the BSA. Later, the USA's Indian motorcycle and the Humber, Bradbury, Motor Reeve and 20th century motorcycles were added to this list. These vehicles were snapped up by those wanting less expensive motorised transport. Shearers travelling between pastoral properties, overlanders and tourists, and by young men and women with a love of speed, which you can see here. The CCM's expansion was furthered in 1908 by its takeover of the Queensland Motor Importing Company, which held the Talbot, Singer and Star motor car agencies for Queensland. At this time, the Talbot car was regarded as Australia's leading motor car. In 1908, the CCM needed more capital to keep up with the rapid expansion of the motor trade and to establish a marine engine branch. To supply this, the company reformed as the Canada Cycle and Motor Agency Queensland Limited with a capital of £55,000. The CCM expanded into other fields of motorised business. In May 1909, it established the Taxi Cab Company Limited in Brisbane, Queensland's first motorised taxi service, which used 6 imported Renault cars fitted with taximeters and driven by uniformed drivers. Later the same year, the CCM established a taxi business in Toowoomba. The Queensland Country Life newspaper in the following year commented that these taxi services had become a necessity among Brisbane and Toowoomba's commercial and fashionable city life. In 1910, the CCM constructed the first taxicab bodies built in Brisbane. These were of the Lord-elect type, such as shown here, and were built for Henry Taylor of Rockhampton. By June 1911, Taylor was running 3 cabs in Rockhampton, and the CCM had also delivered a cab to T.H. Allen of Mount Morgan. They were really progressive. I'm always surprised by these early dates. Around this time, the CCM also supplied the taxi for the first independent cab van in Brisbane, which was J.C. Pullen. Another phase in the uptake of motorisation was for commercial and community purposes. The CCM sold chassis with custom-built bodies for ambulances, buses and fire trucks. It supplied a motorised ambulance to the Brisbane Ambulance Brigade. An Albion motor truck was supplied to the Milton Volunteer Fire Brigade in 1910 and immediately proved its worth. Other service vehicles followed. To the Ipswich Ambulance Brigade, shown here, the Ipswich Fire Brigade and the Queenton and Charters Towers Fire Brigade also. By 1908, the CCM was selling commercial vehicles, namely imported Albion chassis suitable for heavy cartage up to 7 tonnes, and supplying custom-built bodies for them. In October 1910, the company supplied a lorry with a custom body constructed at the Austral Carriage Works to Adam Henderson of Rockhampton, and by December that year, they had supplied an Albion motor bus to convey 23 passengers from South Brisbane Station to Campbell Street, Bowen Hills, which Queensland Country Life deemed the service a wonderful success. The CCM also supplied the 30-seater Comma bus, shown here, and its body used by Mr. Kanan for the first motorised bus service between New Farm and North Quay in 1911. Sales of truck in the Longreach district followed vehicle demonstration there. This is one of those. A different type of commercial vehicle sold by the CCM at this time was the Mighty Atom Auto Carrier, advertised in 1911 as the first auto carrier imported into Queensland and suitable for butchers, bakers, drapers and allied trades. The well-known department store Finney Isles purchased one for its deliveries, shown here. The CCM's growth and the lead up to World War I was rapid, and to accommodate this, the company constructed a 3-storey building designed by noted architect Richard Gailey for its site on the corner of Adelaide and Creek Streets. In late 1910, the CCM moved into this purpose-built building, registering it as the company office. There, Renault, Talbot, Standard, BSA, Humber, Studebaker and Russell vehicles were displayed and repairs conducted on site. The CCM's other Brisbane premises reflected the differing aspects of its business. At 280 Queen Street was the sports department where bicycles and a diverse range of sporting equipment were sold. In 1909, the CCM leased land at Newstead Terrace, Newstead, and opened a marine motor department which built, repaired and hired out motorboats, as well as providing boat mooring and storage. I don't know the exact location on Newstead Terrace, so if anyone does, please tell me. These premises closed by October 1916. The company's Fortitude Valley workshop, shown here, made customised bodies for the CCM ported chassis, and you've seen a few of them already, and operated from about 1911 until the company's closure. In this early phase of the CCM's operation, up to the commencement of World War I, it achieved remarkable growth, as did the motor industry in general, with around 3,000 cars and 2,000 motorcycles in Queensland in 1914. In May 1913, the Brisbane Courier newspaper would say, during the last 10 years, no business perhaps has made greater progress than the CCM. The sales of the company today being 600% greater than they were 6 or 7 years ago. And when CCM staff farewelled Dodwell on a world trip in March 1914, 200 staff assembled to do so. The CCM was in competition with other motor sales companies during its lifetime, of course. In 1906, it and J. Howard & Co. were the biggest firms in the motor industry in Brisbane. By the time the Motor Trades Association formed in March 1916, the CCM's principal competitors in Queensland had expanded to W.M. Trevethan, Evers Brothers, E.G. Eager and Sons Limited, Howard Motor Company, Dalgety & Co., A.J. Lever & Co., Queensland Motor Agency, and Stedman and Mackay. World War I's commencement in August 1914 brought the challenges of inflation, higher costs and higher wages due to manpower shortages. It had an immediate and lasting effect on the CCM. About 50% of its workforce volunteered for service, including managers, salesmen and workmen. Throughout the war, the CCM supported the war effort. Within weeks of its outbreak, the company had donated a Renault car, this one, with a customised CCM design body to carry a machine gun and its crew. The machine gun carrier was presented to the Second Life Corps resident at Inobra in September 1914. Later, with other Studebaker dealers, the CCM donated a 6-cylinder Studebaker car to the Australian Marine Corps for their use in France. Mining Corps, sorry. Australian Mining Corps, I don't know what I said. I beg your pardon. The CCM also lent equipment, such as a stationary engine to the grenade school at the Inobra rifle range for the duration of hostilities, cars to the Red Cross for transporting convalescent soldiers, and a truck to assist the erection of an Anzac cottage at Inobra for a soldier's widow. A whole range of social reasons. Next. In the spirit of wartime charity, the CCM and its employees donated to a variety of causes, including the Motor Ambulance Fund and the Franco-Queensland League of Help. The company participated in efforts to support returned soldiers, such as Wattle Day in June 1918, which promoted national sentiment and raised funds for the establishment of an orthopaedic hospital to treat maimed soldiers. Mrs. Dodd, shown here, received first prize in the decorated car competition. With British and European motor vehicle supplies diverted to war production, the CCM imported American vehicles. From 1915, its agencies included American Republic trucks and Indian motorcycles. However, US vehicle availability was also affected by wartime production as US manufacturers supplied Allied forces. CCM participated in peace celebrations held in Brisbane in November 1918 and July 1919, when soldiers, nurses and floats created by various Brisbane organisations paraded through the CBD. The CCM's Pipers Peace float in July 1919 Peace Parade simultaneously celebrated peace and promoted Indian motorcycles. Yes. As the business slowed down caused by World War I, the CCM sought to resume its after the business slowdown caused by World War I, the CCM sought to resume its rapid pre-war growth while supporting peacetime recovery efforts. To take full advantage of the resumption of peacetime conditions to grow its business, re-employ its former staff and add new agencies, the CCM increased its nominal capital to £208,000 in 1919. The company welcomed about 50 returning soldiers to their former positions or similar ones, and continued to extend assistance to those who had been affected by the war. It donated goods and money to causes, as Queenslanders sought to support returned soldiers, improve conditions in post-war Europe, and memorialise those who had died. One example is the donation of £150 to the Anzac Memorial Avenue Fund for the planting of the avenue of trees from Petrie to Redcliffe in 1925, our current Anzac Avenue. Post-war, the CCM added to its vehicle agencies the American Rio Speedwagon commercial vehicle, Dodge cars sold between 1920 and 23, and grey vehicles, as well as the British-built Austin trucks and tractors and Clino cars. Later, the Lynn tractor was added to its stable of vehicles. From 1922, the CCM operated a used car department in their Brisbane premises to tap into this growing market. The CCM also began selling completely new products. The Lally electric light and power plant from about 1919, which was popular at the pastoral stations, and radios from about 1925. It launched a new radio department selling Operadio brand radios, which is demonstrated through the state by receiving Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne radio broadcasts. Between 1922 and 1928, Queensland experienced its first and only economic boom between the outbreak of war in 1914 and the 1950s. The benefits of the boom economy were experienced throughout the state. Queenslanders embraced motorisation with enthusiasm. In the 1923-24 financial year, the state recorded the third highest number of vehicle registrations in Australia. And Australia itself had the fifth highest vehicle registrations in the world, behind the USA, United Kingdom, Canada and France. And during this period of growth, the CCM paid dividends of up to 10%, which was very much like those shareholders. In Brisbane, where 29% of the population resided, this economic boom also resulted in a flurry of building activity, which transformed Brisbane CBD. The CCM took part in this when, to accommodate its business expansion, it extended its headquarters by adding 3 stories in 1925 to this building. This addition had been designed by architect Gailey at the time of the building's initial planning. In its final form, the CCM building contained offices, car showrooms, sales areas for its many departments, a garage for repair and maintenance work, and a cinema that accommodated 200 people. Expansion was still the company's plan when in April 1927, the CCM announced they would open another branch office in Townsville to better serve their northern clients. It contracted the well-known business of Leon's Motor and Cycle Works Limited for this purpose, and you can see their building industry here. However, later that year, for the first time, the company reported a net trading loss for the year ending 30th of April 1927. This, the CCM reported, was due to a lack of inexpensive cars to sell, drought, keen competition, illness of directors, and new trading conditions, including a depression in trade generally and a slump in the motor industry. In October 1928, the CCM petitioned for liquidation of Leon Motor and Cycle Works Limited in Townsville, which was indebted to the company for over £20,000 for interest, goods supplied and work done for the company, which is an enormous amount in 18 months. A series of financial and business issues followed in 1929. In March, the CCM closed its Rockhampton branch. In August, the company disclosed a debt of more than £86,000, including £11,500 brought forward from the previous year. And Dodwell resigned as managing director, but remained as company director. In October, the company applied for a reduction in its capital in the Supreme Court. On 1 November 1929, after 2 decades of growth and leadership in the motor industry, the CCM succumbed to the worsening economic conditions and entered voluntary liquidation, becoming an early casualty of the Great Depression that continued throughout most of the 1930s. During this liquidation process, the various sections of the CCM's business were sold, some to former employees or were continued through sub-agents. Dodwell established Champion Automobiles on 5th of December 1929 and took over the agency for Studebaker and Erskine cars, operating from the ground floor of the CCM building still. Champion Automobiles purchased the entire stock of cars and parts held by the CCM. Realising the company's assets took time. Its Fortitude Valley premises were sold sometime after September 1930. The CCM building was finally purchased by the Primary Producers Association in 1934 for about £30,000, having been passed in 1930 for £33,000, well below its 1925 valuation of over £43,000. During World War II, this building was requisitioned for war purposes and used as the American Army's postal exchange. It became the focal point of the infamous Battle of Brisbane on the 26th and 27th of November 1942. And you can see it being repaired here. Today, the most tangible reminder of the presence and impact of the CCM, a major company in Queensland's early motoring history, is the former CCM building, which is the locally listed heritage place. There are, of course, some cars that are still being beautifully maintained by owners from that era, particularly Studebaker, I know of. Although the CCM succumbed to financial difficulties, probably caused by its rapid expansion in the post-war period combined with worsening economic conditions, there can be no denying that while it traded, the CCM played an important role in putting Queenslanders on the road. After the winding up of the company, Dodwell retained his home in New Farm, where he resided until his death in May 1945. So the research for this talk was undertaken as part of the Business Leaders Hall of Fame Fellowship, as you know, and I give hearty thanks to its sponsors for the support, the QUT Business School, the State Library of Queensland, and the State Library Foundation, the State Library of Queensland staff, for their research assistants, and to community members, especially the Studebaker Club. I thank them all. And thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much for a very detailed overview of a company that obviously was an integral part of Queensland and Australia's economy.